So thank you. I'm pleased to host today Mohammed Baharoon, the CEO of Bahut, Dubai Public Policy Research Center. And we are meeting for this conversation at a time when the situation in the Middle East, particularly in the Israeli-Palestinian arena, is fragile, at least. We have reached a point where the Arab states have united and succeeded in convincing President Trump to put an end to the intense war in Gaza. However, the path forward from this point towards sustainable stabilization and, heaven forbid, even towards political process for peace remains unclear. There is a need to translate Trump's peace plan into, well, a plan. And it is not easy, especially while the two main protagonists act as spoilers. So I'm happy to have you here, Mohammed. Thank you for joining us once again for Mitvim's annual conference. It is much appreciated. And I would like to start with a positive sense. The way you see it, what are the main current opportunities in the region? And what are the main challenges that can jeopardize the ability to seize those opportunities?
Thank you, Roee, for having me again. It's a pleasure to be part of the Mitvim annual conference. I think looking back at the type of things we discussed last year, looking down to the type of challenges we're discussing this year, there has been a huge improvement. And this improvement, as you mentioned in your introduction, didn't happen by itself. It happened with a lot of efforts from a big number of people, countries, individuals, and I think that contributed to what we describe as the light at the end of the tunnel. So there has been a huge improvement since last year when we met until today. Is this the end of story? No, definitely. But before I go to what we should expect or not expect, the challenges, I would want to highlight something I think very important. As you mentioned, a number of countries came together and convinced President Trump to support this initiative. And I think that is an extremely important aspect. This is not the time when, great powers do things on their own. And they say, let there be light and there will be light. We're living in a world where the collaboration of many small, medium-sized countries is going to have a very important and tangible impact. The reason why it's not power, it's not leverage, it's not, a personal relationship, as sometimes would like to be introduced. It's actually the fact that we are looking at a new world order. It is not polar, it is interconnected. And in an interconnected world order, it's like voting. The number of small countries, medium-sized countries matter more than the vote of the larger ones. And if you see the scenery in Sharm el-Sheikh, the photo, this is, almost a collective will. It's not the will of one country or another country. And I think this is very important. The second important thing, which is again a positive thing, we've seen today a new introduction of this concept of collective security. So the international security force that is now gathering up steam is a group of countries who are saying we are willing to invest in the security of Israel. So Israel doesn't have to think that its security is only its own responsibility and is based on its own collective. So there is a collective security. It is not just the calculus, Israeli calculus, that determines what is security from Israel's perspective is and what. And I think this is something that we have not seen materialize previously in things like the Arab Peace Initiative. The Arab Peace Initiative was just a political solution. The Abrahamic peace brought in the economic integration and the cultural integration. I think the Gaza peace plan brings in the security element. Put all of these together, you have a very good solution for the region. Now, your second question, what could go wrong? What are the challenges? I think the challenges, if we're talking about collective will, collective security, so individualized perception of security is a risk. So if for one reason or another, Israel gets this intelligence that this is a group of Hamas moving from one place or another, and because of my security, I will have to bomb them down in the presence of other nations that are patrolling Gaza, providing security to Israel, and some of them die. Then we will see that break of that type of security. Now, for one calculus or another, it might be a good thing for Israel to get rid of this plan and go back to doing what it used to do, act freely, on its will, free fire whenever it wants, possible. But will it provide Israel with not only collective security, but also integration, not only in the region, but across the globe? That was the promise of IMEC. That was stopped by the war. This was the promise of integration. That is now people are doubting because of the security calculus of Israel that led Israel to attack Doha. So again, there is a lot, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We can see things happening, but at the same time, there are still challenges that we need to address.
Thank you. Actually, you portray the opportunities, which is quite immense when you put them all on the table. And you talked about the integration, you talked about the economical integration, but also about collective security and on collective political processes to create stabilization in the region. And I wonder, where would Israel be in this area if it chooses, as you said, the other options of going back to what it's known to rely only on itself? Would the region promote its interest, its ideas, its aspiration without Israel, or does the region needs Israel integrated into this vision?
Frankly, Israel needs the region more than the region needs Israel. IMEC was supposed to go through Haifa, but if it doesn't go through Haifa, it will have to go somewhere else. It could go through Tartus, it could go through Beirut, it could go through a number. If it doesn't work, then we've got the development road. This is the way it has always been. Either you're part of a group or you're alone. And you can go much faster alone, but you'll go much, much, much further with a group. And it depends on how far does Israel see down the road. Does it see tomorrow only, the day after tomorrow? Or does it see 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, a century down the road? I think this is how it would come. It's easy for Israel to say, I can live on my own. I don't need anywhere else. I have everything that I need, and I will survive the way I've always survived. This is not, in my view, Israel's destiny. This is Israel's choice. Israel's destiny has already been, presented. Israel as a country in the Middle East, accepted by other countries, collaborated with other countries. That is a choice, a destiny that we see, and we are still working for. The only one who doesn't want to work that, as far as the rest of the region seems to be, is that the Israeli policy making until now did not adapt it.
Yeah, we tend to agree here on that point, both on the opportunities and on the understanding of the way forward, and about the fact that it is a choice, a political choice, a policy choice that can be changed as well. If we go to embrace the United Arab Emirates perspective, what do you think would be the role, or what can the UAE contribute to the process of, focusing on the Gaza transition from war to long-term reconstruction? What concrete steps you think it will take, and even what essential conditions must be met for the UAE to choose to do so?
I think for the first point, I would say that the UAE shouldn't be looking at it as Gaza. I know that this is what President Trump is saying. This is not about Gaza, this is about peace in the Middle East. And he's talking about Gaza, he's talking about Syria, he's talking about Lebanon, talking about Iraq, he's talking about Yemen. That is his vision, and I think the UAE fully endorses that vision. And if we only see Gaza, then we will not go so far. We need to look down the road. Now, what would make the UAE do or not do? I think the UAE have exhibited, even before the Abrahamic Accords, that it has been supporting one statehood. So the investment in statehood is imperative, because the alternative to states is non-state actors. And the UAE has been against non-state actors. So, and that includes the state of Israel. That's why we had the Abrahamic Accord. We don't want to deal with Israel as an entity. We want to deal with Israel as a state, a responsible state that observes international law and behaves like one. This is the same approach we had to Iran. And this is exactly the same approach we had to Syria. And now this is the same approach we have to a Palestinian state. We need a state, because once there is a state, there is no occupation. When there is no occupation, there is no resistance, there is no non-state actors. That's how we can deal with the subject. So again, that is what the UAE, this is how the UAE sees it, and that's what it wants to do. Now, the important question is the how. And the how is that we want to do it together with other people. It does not mean much if Israel is alone on this. It doesn't mean a lot if Israel and the UAE are alone on this. It means everything when Israel, UAE, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Jordan, all of them are into this. And I think that is where we're going. And that is why, I mean, the opportunity again is that we've got Islamic countries participating in this collective security approach. This is a collective security approach for Gaza, but it can be extended to the Palestinian state. That security force can become also a guarantor of peace for both the Palestinians and the Israelis. They can be the observers of a non-aggression agreement. So if there has ever been the fear that Israel cannot afford a Palestinian state because a Palestinian state is a danger, I think now we've got a mechanism that could allow for this, and could start in Gaza, but it will not stop there.
I'm happy that you expanded the scope out of Gaza, because and you spoke about the essential connection between state and security. And if we wish to have security, we need states, functional states, effective states, strong states. We see maybe all the way around when we look at Gaza and the West Bank, we might think that we even have to start in the West Bank in order to succeed in Gaza, meaning we have to bring the state from the West Bank, the Palestinian Authority, to be in charge, to be part of the process, and to see it as a process of state building, and not just as a prolonged ceasefire, just focusing on Gaza. So we share the same perspective here. I think so. It's not a coincidence that we found ourselves speaking here together. Lastly, I would like to ask you if you have any key message that you would like to convey to the Israeli public. If I can provide you the route to speak to the hearts and minds of the Israeli public, one that you believe it's important for them to hear, to understand, to internalize, because we're not accustomed, unfortunately, too much to direct dialogue, and it is important to us to hear.
Yeah. Well, maybe I'm not in a position to, advise the Israeli people. They're very smart people. They've been doing a lot of smart things. I mean, of course, like in any other country, we'll find people who do not so many smart things. But I think the reality, if I want to discern it, is what I said at the beginning. Perpetual war shouldn't be Israel's destiny in the region, and frankly, shouldn't be the region's destiny with Israel. People are looking at the opportunity Israel can present to the region. This was the whole idea of the exercise of the Abrahamic Accords, looking at Israel as a partner rather than a foe or an enemy. And we have, sort of have a proof of concept of what does that mean, that cultural integration is possible, war and peace is possible, economic integration is possible. All of these things we thought that Israel would never believe that the Arab world would absorb it and deal with it. All of this has been dispelled. Even with the Palestinian Authority, as much as there is a lot of criticism, flying around, they have been a partner in peace with Israel, and that should be recognized. With the lack of tools that they have, with the lack of or the limited scope that they have been a partner for security for Israel in the West Bank. We haven't seen anything similar to not only the Gaza, but the previous Gazas happened in the West Bank. That is an attribute that need to be given to them, but also built on it rather than dismiss it because they're, say, either weak or ineffective or, these are the opposites of the strong, the effective, states that you've mentioned. They have been doing their work, and I think that is a good example that investment in statehood can actually pay dividends. And I think the one thing that is very obvious today, gathering up steam right now, is that there are so many countries that are willing to invest in Israel's security. Israel need to invest in their security as well, because this is always a two-way street. It is never a one-way street.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mohammed. Well, we partners here for these efforts. Whenever we can, reach out and assist you, we'll be happy to do that. And we're very grateful for our partnership and our mutual effort. As you say, it's a two-way road. It's not one way. And we're happy to work with you together in that way. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, for having me again.
And hopefully, in the coming years, we'll do that in person. Hopefully, after different political choices and diplomatic choices would be made, then we could do that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
And do get some rest. from your
Thank you.
tablet.
I think it applies to you as well.
Yeah, it does. It does.
See, two-way road.
Exactly. Yeah, thank you,
Okay.
Mohammed. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.